Welcome to the Win Again Lounge. My name is Mark Moyer, and I'm super excited today because I've got I'm going to call her the NIL expert, Meyer. And Michelle is currently working for San Diego State University as their resident expert. Can I call you that, by the way?
Sure.
Of course you
I don't know. I don't know if there's any expert in this industry yet, but we can pretend.
So grab the title while you can. It's okay. But anyway, but Michelle's had a long history within beach volleyball, actually, and then she's really transitioned more recently as NIL has grown, and it's a bit of the I guess I'd call it the Wild West, and it is. But Michelle has put together something she's calling the NIL Network, which is a fantastic space to and I guess website and so forth, but a resource for all kinds of information surrounding NIL for both administrators, student athletes, parents, etc. So highly recommend you check that out. But that feels like it's the endorsement at the end. I got to do that later. But anyways, thanks again for being here, Michelle. How's everything in San Diego?
It's going great. We were able to launch our NIL program last week, which was something that I've been working on since I started here in November, kind of in the background. So I'm so happy to have that out and now to kind of lift my head up and see where this is all going over the next couple of months.
So let's talk about the program. When you say it's a program, so walk me through, is it something for the student athlete? Is it something for the tell?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple different components. We have, internal education, which is for the athletes. So they have access to Open Doors Ready, which is a series of videos that kind of cover all the topics of NIL, from building your brand to tax implications to how to, invest your NIL money. We have Team Ultimus, which also covers the protective education side. They came in the fall, actually before I got here, and did some seminars with our athletes about financial literacy and their decision making. And then we have a student athlete development program called Aztecs Going Pro, which we're integrating some of the high level topics of NIL into, which is a 1-unit course that the athletes take for 1 semester every year of their college career while they're here. So really it's an opportunity for me to get in front of them and say, hey, I'm Michelle, here's the NIL info of the semester for you. And then finally, what I've created a couple weeks ago was different meeting topics, because the athletes really weren't coming in to see me very much. They'd wave when they walked by to go visit their academic advisors and whatnot. And I think the reason being, it was just they don't know what they need help with. And so if I can build out some different sessions, like building your brand, this is what we'll go over. Let's explore opportunities. These are the things we'll talk about. They can book in really simple meetings, come in and chat with me for a half hour, and that's worked really well. On the other side, we have 2 platforms set up now that really eases the facilitation of NIL opportunities for our fan supporters and local businesses, because as an employee of San Diego State, I can't actually be negotiating those deals on behalf of our athletes. I can go out and educate the community as much as I possibly can, but as soon as they say, okay, I'm interested, how much should I pay an athlete, or can I get this athlete? That's when I say, okay, you need to go over to this platform, and this third-party service provider will then handle that opportunity, make sure it's compliant, that they're not risking their eligibility, that the deal gets done, the athlete delivers, and then they get paid. So much better option than what they're previously doing, which was most of their deals through direct messages through Instagram.
So when you say, impacting eligibility, give me an example of some things that could work and some things that don't.
Yeah, so I mean, this is the hard part for athletes, right? And they've been told you cannot even take a piece of chocolate from a fan, right? Because that is an additional benefit for you being an athlete. So they've always been, no. And now all of a sudden, July 1st of last year, it's like, now you can do whatever you want. And they're going, hold on a second, like that can't possibly be. Like there's got to be some rules in place. And that's one of the things that I would call it, the Wild West, is because the rules are different all over the country. There's about 25 states that have their NIL law in effect. And so athletes have to follow that within their state. A lot of them have institutional policies as well. But in terms of the NCAA's interim policy, really the 3 pieces are basic. It's a quid pro quo, like there has to be some kind of activity for compensation. They can't just get that chocolate bar for free. The second one being that no deals can be contingent on enrollment or continued enrollment at an institution. We've seen that one pushed quite recently, but
interesting.
And then the final one being that it's not pay for play, so you can't really write up a contract that says, for every touchdown you throw, we're going to pay you $1,000 or what that looks like. So it's pretty open. In California, we don't really have a lot of other restrictions in our law, in our policy. They can't partner with NCAA banned substances, and then really have a contract that conflicts with a team contract, which is interesting because we're a Nike school. Actually, an athlete could go partner with Adidas as long as they are only wearing Nike during team activities. They can wear Adidas in their dorm room. They can do that.
Oh, interesting.
That doesn't violate the team contract, but again, that's part of just the education around all of this stuff.
Now, I'm assuming that the rules are slightly different in a lot of the states. Is there a way to? Because look, maybe when let's say San Diego State's playing at Arizona or wherever, somewhere else, I'm assuming that at that location, it's possible that a local institution or something wants to employ one of the players. Is there a way that you guys can present to the teams and say, look, we see these places on your schedule. Why don't we in advance tell you, here's what's allowed at Arizona, here's what's allowed in Texas, here's what's allowed in Wisconsin, or whatever it is. Is there a way to do that, or how does that work?
There is, but I think the coaches would kill me. I think for road trips and team activities like that, they are not really wanting them to be engaged in NIL activities. And it comes down to the team, of course, but I haven't had that experience yet at San Diego State. I was talking to another NIL person at a different institution that was trying some of that and was just blocked by the coaches. And I get it. But at the same time, it's their free time should be their free time, but they are on the school's dime if they're traveling. It's a really interesting kind of.
But I guess it's got to be a little bit of a cover their rear sort of thing, because I guess conceptually, I'm just making this up, but conceptually, a car dealer in Wisconsin could reach out via Instagram or whatever it is to the visiting player and say, look, when you're in town, swing by and we'll record a 30-second commercial, whatever it is, right? And it's probably better to make sure that they understand the rules ahead of time versus kind of find out after the fact that they've been, I don't know, what are some of the penalties, whatever? Is it sort of suspension? Is it, what happens?
Well, that's a really interesting thing about all these state NIL laws, right? Because California was the first one to pass in 2019, right. With the original effective date of January 2023. So really, they put this bill up, they passed it, but with the idea that the NCAA would come around and shift their rules and it wouldn't actually go into effect. Florida followed with the July 1st date, pushing the NCAA more, and all of the states followed. Now, I don't have a background in law, but from the attorneys I've talked to, they're like, none of these bills were written in a way that they should have, they were planning to go into effect, because they don't have anyone that's responsible for monitoring it. You look at all these state laws and it's who's actually enforcing any of this? It's not in any of those bills, which is, again, it's just the Wild West. Institutional policies, I've seen some that have, their list of things if an athlete's not abiding by them. I think the hardest or the thing that most schools are struggling with right now are the disclosures. So the California state law requires that they disclose their NIL opportunities to the school. It's in our policy. But at the same time, are there any consequences? No. So is an athlete going to take the extra steps to do that?
So for example, again, let's say Bob's Pizza says, hey, Nancy Jones, we'd love for you to promote our thing. Nancy Jones is required to send in a form at some point saying, Bob's Pizza paid me $100 or $500 or whatever.
Yep.
Is there some sort of central database, or is it just literally an email saying whatever, or who tracks this stuff?
They have a procedure. So we, at San Diego State, they've used ARMS, which is our compliance software, and it was a form that they'd go on. It wasn't great though, because it's a form, it exports as an Excel. It's hard for me to, get through and see what's really going on. And so we've just recently opened up as well. Opendoors has a disclosure software that's even way simpler. They can use their phone to do it. It's,
good.
Takes them
sort of like Venmo almost, or something like that. Easy. Yeah.
Very
cool.
Easy.
Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think people are surprised to see that female athletes are really running with this and doing really quite well. And you mentioned, especially within TikTok. So walk me through how, again, whoever, Nancy Smith at whatever school, or let's say at your school, and let's say she's a hoops player and so forth, how is she monetizing
Yeah.
via TikTok or whatever it might be?
Yeah, and so I think the stats right now and open doors for, unfortunately, this is one of my griefs about this industry so far is like there's just not a lot of transparency.
Yeah.
Open Doors is the only company that's really putting out every month. They'll put out different insights or statistics about what's going on. And so according to them, which again, you're looking at schools that are using Open Doors because that's like the data that they have. I think they're reporting about 80% of all NIL deals are done right now through social media. Typically, women in general are more active on social media. They're more intentional. They have more followers, better engagement. And so NIL really, really should be benefiting female athletes in a fantastic way. And what we've seen so far, I mean, football is through the roof. And I don't think we're ever going to really catch up to that. I think they're about 50% of, actually, maybe 40% of all deals are football, but they cover about 50% of the total compensation.
Okay.
And they're the revenue generating part. I think with all these collectives, that's only going to probably grow. But
yeah,
women's basketball is about at 18% of the total
wow.
compensation as the second sport. And I think men's basketball is about 16%. And then after that, there's a pretty significant drop off. I think women's volleyball might be about 7 or 8%. Baseball is coming up. Anyway, yeah, and the women of basketball are just killing it on TikTok. I think Open Doors and Front Office Sports put out a paper, it's a couple months old now, but
yeah,
really like making some significant revenue off of that. And with my background in beach volleyball, where we're still trying to make this sport a sustainable professional sport, I've always told the athletes, like, you guys are, whether you like it or not, responsible for like a grassroots movement of growing this sport, because the more you can build your fansmanship on social media, sharing your story, get people following you, the more they're going to want to follow you on the court. And I kind of see the exact same trend now with female sports, and I think NIL is really helping that as well, that they're able to build their personal brand, get a ton of followers. Now we see them getting national sponsors and whatnot, or putting up on billboards, and it's just bringing a ton more awareness to female sports. And like, we saw it in the women's basketball tournament, the championship game, 4.5 million viewers or something like that.
Amazing.
It was awesome. And I think that is going to be like a really, really cool thing to follow over the next couple of years.
Completely agree. And I think that, it's interesting because people are drawn. I mean, it's not, so on TikTok, it's not necessarily people my age going through it and watching it, other than, of course, military aircraft apparently. But it's also obviously young, kids and teenage and so forth, and they all have obviously some disposable money to spend, and parents' money and that sort of thing. So I think that the venue is fantastic for these athletes. Is it something that are they doing a specific product endorsement? Is it so that they're holding up a soda or whatever it is, or is it just being on there and having lots of views and so on?
I think it's a combination. TikTok, if you get to a certain amount of followers, they have I forget even what it's called, the TikTok fund or something like that, that you get paid per viewers or engagement, like fractions of a cent or whatnot. Yeah. But if you're putting these videos up that are getting millions of views, that adds up. I know a lot of them as well, like Sedona Prince from Oregon will do live videos where people then, they just send gifts, they call them, here's a rose, here's a heart, here's a this, here's a that. Yeah. And like, it adds up, it's maybe only a quarter, but if you've got, again, a couple 10,000 people who are viewing it live and throwing you that quarter, it makes for a pretty good hourly wage, I'd say. But I think also they're doing some brand partnerships and activations on behalf of brands on their accounts as well. And I don't know if I've seen any from women's basketball players recently, but I do think that a lot of those brands, they'll have their coupon code that they can put in the bio, that little
like an affiliate link kind of,
to drive the sales. So I think it's a combination.
By the way, not only do those quarters add up, but I mean, when you're a college student, you don't need, you're on some, $100 is fantastic, so it's such a great way to sort of add to your personal bottom line, but it's also building your personal brand going forward. Now, do you, part of what you do you counsel the student athletes on maybe some of the things they should be careful of and beware of and stay away from and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it's still pretty difficult to just like, because it's such a new space and territory. So really we're taking it day by day to understand like what are all the things they need to be watching out for. For example, with our new Open Doors built us out a directory of all of our student athletes. So it's a landing page that just hosts San Diego State athletes that connects to their Open Doors profile. Now, like these marketplaces have existed, since July 1st, these national ones that you can see profiles of all kinds of athletes. But the other night I was thinking, I was like, man, is that something if we're aggregating together all of our athletes? So it's going to be a lot of the San Diego State fans. And the ones that scare me are the real like super fans and the ones that are, we love them, but also we're like, oh, just stay a little bit back. And now they can, go and find our athletes and pitch them an opportunity. And I'm like, that's actually an educational resource I'm developing right now. Is like how to evaluate like appearances, for example. Like, where are you going? If you're going to someone's house, bring a friend. Like you cannot, make sure you know who you're dealing with, because this is their first time navigating this as well, and they're excited to make a little bit of extra money. And I'm just like a little apprehensive.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, as a parent of a current college student and a couple that are out, I mean, I can understand that apprehension, because I can see how someone can be completely lured in by like, oh yeah, $100 come to my place and whatever. And yeah, so, and this is happening everywhere. And so I hope that, I mean, I think what you're doing with the NIL network anyway is so important. I feel that every administrator, every college, every university, every school, middle schools, high schools, etc., should have access to this kind of content to really implore their student athletes to really think twice before, or to as you said, notify a friend, bring someone, all that sort of thing, because it's the temptation and the lure is very strong, and it never used to be something, and now it is. So I think that's great.
And I guess I try to, I don't know, ease my nerves of being like, this stuff has been happening through DMs. And that's not very traceable. Like at least now, I guess, like these type of things will go through a platform that has records of like requests or like things like that. I don't know. It's still just a little scary.
Now, does a company like Open Doors, I'm assuming it's fee-based somehow. So are they charging the school? Is it something they charge the athlete? Does that work?
So we as a school will pay for Open Doors. San Diego State's been partnered with them since about 2018 as like a hub, like a cloud actually to get the athletes their photos from games, media day, that kind of thing. July 1st, I think they upgraded their package to get the educational videos component as well as the compliance software. The marketplace functions kind of separately than Open Doors. And when you go on there, let's say you use the pitch anything function, you put in $100 for the athlete, and you go to checkout, they charge actually a 30% fee, which I am not that happy about. Yeah. Right. Very, very passive.
I probably shouldn't say anything.
Adjusting, but we shall see when that happens. The other platform is Empower Aztecs, which is works more in the agency side, but it is a passive platform as well. It's a form that somebody fills out when they're interested in working with San Diego State athletes, and then they, figure out the deal and whatnot and make sure it gets done as a 15% fee. So on top of
there is a way to do it outside of the other guys. I mean, there's a way to do it. So so if I wanted to hire a San Diego State student athlete, I would have to go through one or the other, I guess, right? I can't just go directly to them and then they report it and now say here's $1,000 and they say I got $1,000. I have to pay a fee to somebody at some point.
I mean, not technically. Like you could send an athlete a DM and negotiate it kind of offline or whatnot. I haven't encouraged our athletes to do that just because I don't think it's the safest way.
Right.
If somebody's reaching out, first of all, if someone's reaching out via DMs, it's going to go to that other folder on Instagram that potentially they never see. Other messages, and as far as the athletes that have come in and talked to me about them, it's like automatically a little red flag. They don't take it that seriously. They're like, is this even real? Who's behind this? And so there's a lot of kind of fear there, as well as, if they go through DMs, then it's like, what if they sign a bad contract that they just sold all of their NIL rights for that $100 or whatnot? Like these other companies are vetting those contracts, protecting them and their eligibility. And so I tell athletes, at least when you're getting started in this space, I think going through a third-party service provider is a better route. Like once you figure it out and once you feel more confident about your abilities to read a contract and negotiate for your worth and whatnot, do it offline, do it by yourself. That's great. You're very empowered to do it. But I think when you're first starting with their limited time, it's better to go through a platform.
So if I'm, let's say a well-known alum or something or whatever, it's like I don't know, a Marshall Falk or something. I mean, the student athlete probably doesn't need to worry too much about the concern level, I guess. So I could conceptually go to them directly and just forget DM. I could just text them anything. And it's not. I'm sorry, I'm asking all this stuff. I'm not asking for a specific reason, but I'm just curious. Is it illegal for someone to contact the athlete directly or not? It's just you're recommending that they funnel through just to keep it.
Yeah.
On the up
I
and
think
up as much as possible.
Yeah, and I think even on, like, let's say for the business, the brand, the fan side as well, going through a platform like Empower Aztecs, it'll make sure that the deal gets done as well. Like
Right.
athlete signs a contract saying that they're going to make this appearance, do these posts and whatnot. And if they just don't deliver and you never get in touch with them again, like Empower Aztecs is going to follow up with that athlete and make sure that that is righted. Your DMs on Instagram, like that could just be, nope, see you later. Never mind. I don't want to do it.
Gotcha. All right. So, going forward, what are some of the, if you could wave a magic wand, what are some of the things you'd love to see implemented in the space?
Yeah, so I think we're just scratching the surface of what NIL is going to look like. I think that it's really going to grow and flourish in like more of the local market where a lot of the local businesses, the supporters of the program don't quite know how to engage in this space yet. But I think that's where these businesses, like they're really going to get their ROI from engaging with athletes, Division I athletes. Like San Diego, for example, we have the San Diego Padres as our competition in terms of professional franchises. We're like the only Division I, prominent national kind of program. And so I think that local business and our athletes, people who follow them, are fans of San Diego State.
Sure.
They probably, a lot of them live in San Diego, they're going to the games and whatnot. And so it'd be advantageous for local restaurants and whatnot to partner with some of the athletes. They just don't know how yet, because on the same side, these local businesses, especially around campus here, have always been told, do not even give a side of fries for free to an athlete. Like, do not do that. You'll cost them their eligibility. And so again, it just comes down to education. And I think the other part for me is like, I really want to see NIL activations grow outside of social media. So more like community engagement, appearances, speaking about what it means to be a D1 athlete at San Diego State, running camps, clinics, private lessons. Like, I think that, those type of things were done, probably like 2 decades ago now. And then as soon as NIL really started getting national attention, the schools were like, hold on, we should not be requiring our athletes to give their time, and we can't compensate them properly outside of like what is required on campus. And so those type of community activations have really gone to the wayside, which I think is unfortunate. But at the same time, now they get paid to do some of those things, and I think it helps to even build the school and the teams and the programs. Because let's say a football athlete goes out and does a clinic over the weekend, guess what? Every 10-year-old kid there is going to look up to that player and want to go to the San Diego State football games in the fall and beg their parents. Like, it's just, I think it can grow and it can benefit both sides.
Absolutely right. I mean, I'm thinking also, for example, if I have Mark's Pizza out there, I'd love to have, Nancy Jones, John Smith show up and do an appearance for me at the, hey, guess what? Nancy Smith's going to be at my pizzeria next Saturday, whatever it is, signing autographs or signing volleyballs or whatever the hell it is. So I think that could be great. And I think I suppose the catch is just simply, what is the amount that's going to get Nancy interested to come down, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's how the negotiation happens pretty much, because there's no set, fees or whatever, I guess.
Yep. It's whatever Nancy wants to come down. And I think it really differs athlete to athlete, and where their priorities are, what their time looks like, and if they want to do something like that. But I think a great example of that kind of local community activation is Kansas men's basketball right now is doing essentially a tour around their city and stopping at all those local businesses for NIL. And they have, what is it, Six Man Strategies, I think, is their kind of local agency there that's representing a lot of their basketball athletes. But they plan this whole thing, and I'm kind of following along. I think they started yesterday at 1, but like they're making the rounds, and I'm like, go get it. Good job, guys.
No kidding. I mean, that's brilliant. And it's, you know, I'm guessing that if there's a third party, again, broker, arranger, whatever it is, agency, et cetera, that makes themselves well known on campus and that they're good and follow everything and so forth, that could be really a relief for the student athlete to join that versus not being sure what the hell they would do. So that's kind of interesting. So how do you, I mean, you've just, you've been there a few months now. You're really, cranking this program along. Where do you feel that this could be almost like a model program and replicated at other universities?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of myself building this program, the type of research I was doing, I mean, I've been on every D1's website like more times than I care to admit, just looking at, what they're doing and picking up some of the best trends and the things that I think are really good and beneficial for both the community and athletes. So I like the aspects of the program that we launched last week. I don't think it's necessarily everything that I wanted to get done. I think the really important kind of my next steps is I want to host kind of like one of these town hall type things for our supporters and fans, just to talk about NIL, what's going on around the country, how they can get involved, what that looks like, where they can find our athletes. Also looking at potentially like a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce here in San Diego,
Cool.
try to get in front of the local businesses and really like put myself out there for those kind of things and that kind of education, because it's we have 85,000 local businesses here in San Diego. I would say less than 10 have done anything with their athletes yet. That's a huge opportunity.
Oh my gosh! Wow, it really is, and I think, and there's quite a difference between getting, one of the Padres to do something versus one of the. So I think that's fantastic. Well, look, let's do this. I'm very excited to be able to get this out there to all of our members, and we'll put it out on YouTube and so forth. But what's the best way for someone to be able to reach out to you, Michelle?
Yeah, I think my Instagram account is NIL Network, website's nilnetwork.com, Twitter is NIL Network, or my email works too. It's michelle@nilnetwork.com.
Were you kind of amazed that NIL Network was available.com?
I have gotten asked that so many times. People are like, how long ago did you buy that domain? I'm like, November of 2020? No way. Like, yep, $20 for 2 years.
Brilliant.
Oh.
I had to arm wrestle with a different Mark Moyer to get markmoyer.com and pay money for and everything. And I was like, how is that even possible? And NIL Network, there it is. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well done, Michelle. Well, look, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing not just what you're doing at San Diego State University really blossom and grow, but also see how NIL Network can really be a fantastic resource for student athletes, their parents, the administrators, the coaches, everybody, because it's right now we're at a stage where, as you said, it's a Wild West, but it's also one in which people really don't necessarily understand a lot of this, and they're still concerned about whether they will be breaking rules and this sort of stuff. So I think it's fantastic that you've got that information on there. Again, nilnetwork.com. And thanks so much, Michelle. Oops. I guess that's late. Time's up. Lights out.
Yep, that always happens in longer meetings.
Oh, that's funny. Well, listen, I appreciate your time today. Thanks so much. And we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Awesome.
Thank you.